To find volume of a rectangular prism, we must multiply the length times the width times the height. Volume equals length times width times height. One of the first things that we need to do is identify what the length, width, and height are for the three-dimensional figure. So as I look at this picture, I'm going to choose what I want the length to be, the width, and the height. In the end, because of the commutative property of multiplication, in the end, it doesn't necessarily matter which one I choose for which, because I'm going to end up multiplying all three measurements anyway. But we're going to try to keep it consistent every time. So we're going to call the length the long side. We'll usually call it the one in the front here. So as I measure the length of this, all I'm doing is counting how many cubes there are. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means that I have 4 units as my length. So over here, I'm going to say length equals 4. Next, I'm going to measure the width. And so the width is the measurement that goes maybe across or maybe from front to back. That's going to be your decision. But here I see that the width comes out to be 3 units. So again, I'm going to identify width equals 3. And then finally, for the height, that's always going to be the one that goes up and down. Okay. So the height is going to be 3 units. So I'll write height equals 3. Now, all I have to do is come down here to the formula that we were given, volume equals length times width times height, and now I just need to substitute those numbers in for the length, which according to what I wrote up in the top right, the length is 4, the width is 3, and the height is 3. The next step is to multiply. Volume equals 4 times 3 is 12. I haven't used this last 3, so that has to drop down to the next line. And finally, I say volume equals 12 times 3, which is 36. And these are cubic units. Cubic because we're actually counting cubes. Here's another example. So again, we need to identify the length, the width, and the height. So in this case, the length, I'm going to call it 4. The width is going to be 3. And the height is going to be 5. So I rewrite my volume formula. Volume equals length times width times height. So the volume will now equal 4 times 3 times 5. 4 times 3 is 12 times 5 is going to give me 60 cubic units. This is how we find volume. One final example. Length, width, and height are the measurements we need to find. The length on this one is 6. The width is 4. And the height is 2. So volume equals length times width times height. Volume equals 6 times 4 times 2. Multiply the 6 and the 4 to get 24. And then multiply it by 2 to get a volume of 48 cubic units. All of our volume answers will be in cubic units, that exponent of 3. That is because we're actually counting how many cubes can fit inside this rectangular prism, and cubes have 3 dimensions, and that is why we are measuring with 3-dimensional units.